I choked when my boss introduced my ex as his future wife and asked me to clap. He thought I needed rent money more than dignity. She thought she'd won something permanent. They both forgot I was listening. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening from in the comments. My name is Harper. I'm 29 years old, and this is what really happened. The fire snapped behind the stone hearth like it was chewing bones. Applause bounced off the lodge rafters and came back louder. My champagne flute shook against my teeth when I tried to sip. Graham Whitaker, my boss, stood with a grin that felt rehearsed. He raised his glass and scanned the long table like a judge. "Tonight," he said, "I get to share something personal." I laughed on cue with everyone else. And then he gestured toward the doorway. "And I'd like you to meet my future wife." The word hit me like a fist. I inhaled wrong, hard, sharp. Champagne burned down the wrong pipe, and I choked anyway. People kept clapping while I coughed into a linen napkin. Silverware clinked. Someone yelled, "No way!" I held my smile in place like it was taped on. And then I saw her, my ex, Aubrey Hale, in a cream sweater and glossy curls. The same mouth that used to whisper my name into my pillow. Now smiling like she belonged at my table. Aubrey's eyes met mine for half a second. Not surprise, not guilt, just a quick, tight flicker, like a warning light. I pressed my nails into my palm under the table. The napkin tasted like bleach and cheap detergent. My throat stayed dry, like it was packed with cotton. "Harper, you okay?" my coworker Tessa whispered. Her voice was soft, but the room was loud in my ears. Me. "Totally. Just bubbly went down wrong." Tessa. "Girl, that announcement, I'm dying." Me. "Yeah, wild." Wild wasn't the word. Walmart receipt crumpled in my blazer pocket was wilder. It still had trial-size antacids circled in pen from earlier, because I'd come to this retreat thinking my stomach was just nerves. I'd had a monster quarter, and Graham had finally noticed. He'd said the words I'd been chasing for 2 years. "You're next up," he told me last Friday. "Keep your head down and I'll make it official." Official meant a new title. A raise big enough to breathe without counting pennies. A lease renewal without begging my roommate to cover late fees. My apartment complex had HOA-style rules without the money. No doormats in the hall. No Christmas lights past January 2nd. One warning note taped to my door, and you paid a community fine. Last month, I fought a bogus fee at the county clerk's office downtown. I still remembered the fluorescent buzz and the line that didn't move. The clerk stamped my paperwork and slid it back with no eye contact. "County clerk, case number 2024-17823. That case was about a $300 maintenance charge on my lease. I'd won, barely, because I had receipts and dates. I believed in paperwork the way some people believe in prayer. So when Graham invited me to Colorado for the annual leadership retreat, I packed like it was a court appearance and a vacation combined. Blazers, boots, one black dress that said competent, not desperate, and a notebook I pretended was for ideas, not survival. The shuttle from Denver smelled like air freshener and wet wool. Someone played a true crime podcast too loud in the back row. I watched snow blur the window and tried to feel proud. Graham sat up front, laughing with the VP like they were equals. Every so often, he glanced back at me, not warmth, more like inventory. When we reached the resort, the lodge looked like a postcard. Timber beams, string lights, a frozen creek behind it. The kind of place people get engaged on purpose. We checked in and they handed us lanyards and key cards. Mine had my name printed in block letters. Harper Lane, Product Operations. I should have felt like it meant something. Instead, my phone buzzed with a calendar alert. DMV, registration renewal, 9 a.m. Monday. Life didn't pause just because you stood in a pretty place. It followed you, like a shadow in daylight. At lunch, Graham was charming for the group. He talked about team culture and integrity like he invented them. But when he passed behind my chair, his hand lingered on my shoulder, just long enough to remind me who controlled my future. "Harper," he said, low, "tonight we'll celebrate. Stay close." I nodded like that was normal. My stomach tightened like a drawstring. By afternoon, the schedule was packed. Trust falls, breakout sessions, vision mapping on easels. I smiled until my cheeks ached. Between meetings, I ducked into the gift shop for a bottle of water. I bought it with Apple Pay, then grabbed antacids too. The cashier handed me the receipt like it was nothing. It felt like insurance. At 5, I changed into my black dress. I stared at my face in the bathroom mirror and practiced calm. I practiced the kind of smile women learn early, the one that says, "I'm fine," even when you're not. Downstairs, the dining hall glowed orange with firelight. Plates were set like a wedding. Name cards, mini pine cones, heavy wine glasses. Sound carried in that room. Laughter rang off the wood, and every fork tap sounded amplified. The fireplace crackled like it had secrets. Graham took the seat at the head of the table. He didn't look at me when I sat 2 rows down. He didn't need to. He waited until everyone had a drink, until the servers cleared the salad plates, until the room was warm and relaxed and ready to believe him. Then he stood. His chair scraped back with a long, clean screech. Conversations faded into little pockets of quiet. He lifted his glass, and the rim caught the firelight. "And now," Graham said, a voice smooth as bourbon, "before dessert, I want to introduce someone very special." I froze with my flute halfway to my lips. My fingers tightened around the stem until it almost hurt. Across the table, Tessa leaned in, excited. Graham's eyes flicked toward the doorway. He smiled wider, like the ending was already written. "And I'd like you all to meet." "And I'd like you all to meet." The doors opened and cold air rolled in behind her like a stage effect. Aubrey's perfume arrived first. Vanilla and something expensive, like cedar. It cut through the lodge's pine scent and the whiskey on everyone's breath. Graham held his palm out, presenting her. "My future wife," he said, bright and proud, like it was a promotion. Aubrey stepped forward, cheeks pink from the snow, ring finger bare. People erupted anyway, chairs scooted, and glasses lifted. Someone whistled like we were at a ball game. I tasted champagne and metal and my own panic. Tessa's hand found my knee under the table. Her nails were gel-polished, icy blue. "You knew?" she mouthed. I shook my head once, slow, controlled. My throat tightened again, and I forced a swallow that didn't help. Across the table, my director chuckled like this was adorable. Director: "Whitaker finally did it, huh?" Graham: "When you know, you know." My napkin was damp in my fist. It smelled like bleach and that fake mountain linen fragrance hotels love. I pressed it to my lips to hide the tremble. Aubrey's eyes skimmed the room, collecting reactions like coins. They landed on me, and she didn't flinch. Her smile didn't even wobble. A year ago, that smile was inches from my ear in my old Honda Civic. We'd sat in a Starbucks parking lot with our drinks sweating in the cup holders. She'd turned the paper sleeve in circles and said she needed space. Not "I met someone," not "I'm done," just space. Like I was furniture she wanted to move. Now she walked toward Graham's chair like she'd been practicing. The servers drifted around her with trays, and the smell of rosemary and butter rose. It made my stomach lurch. Rich food, rich air, rich betrayal. Graham pulled out the chair beside him. It was the seat everyone watched. The seat that meant you mattered. "Come on," he said, soft enough to sound intimate. Aubrey slid in like she belonged there. Her sleeve brushed Graham's wrist. He didn't move away. All I could think was, she never liked being touched in public. Not with me. My colleague Mark leaned over my shoulder. "Zete, Mark, you look like you just saw a ghost." Me. "Just surprised. That's all." Surprised was a weak word for a blade between ribs. I kept my face calm, the way you keep your voice steady in a 911 call. My body wanted to bolt. My brain told me to survive. Graham lifted his glass again. "Also," he said, "Aubrey will be joining us more often." My fork paused mid-air. More often meant office. More often meant meetings with my name on them. He continued, casual, like he was reading dessert options. "She's exploring a role with us. Special projects. Strategy support. Strategy support was my lane. It was the work I built late nights for. It was the reason my Saturday laundry smelled like stale office coffee. Tessa's grip tightened on my knee. I felt her pulse through her fingertips. Tessa, isn't that like your thing? Me, apparently it's everyone's thing now. Across the hall, someone turned up the music. Soft jazz, too smooth. The scent of whiskey thickened as more glasses filled. Aubrey accepted congratulations like she was signing autographs. VP Lana approached Graham first, then Aubrey. Lana wore a blazer even at dinner, the kind of person who slept in authority. She kissed Aubrey's cheek lightly and said something I couldn't hear. Then Lana's eyes found me. Not warm, not cruel, just assessing. Lana crossed the room with her glass. Lana, Harper Lane, right? Me, yes. She looked between me and Aubrey, like matching puzzle pieces. Lana, you're the one who cleaned up the Q4 launch mess, nice work. Me, thank you. Her perfume was sharp, citrus and smoke. It layered with Aubrey's vanilla until the air felt crowded. And Lana's voice stayed low. Lana, keep your head. Retreats make people sloppy. Me, I'm sorry? Lana, just advice. Then she walked away like she hadn't dropped a warning on my plate. Aubrey finally stood and moved down the table to meet everyone. It was theater. It was control. When she reached me, she stopped like she'd hit an invisible wall. For a second, all I smelled was her. Clean hair, expensive lotion, the faint bite of peppermint gum. The scent pulled me backward hard into my own memories. Aubrey. Harper. Me. Aubrey. Her voice was softer than I remembered. Not shaky, just measured. Aubrey, I didn't know you'd be here. Me, that's funny, I didn't know you'd be future anything. Her smile flickered barely. She lowered her eyes to my drink like it was safer than my face. As Aubrey, Graham said this was company leadership. Me, it is. Welcome to the table. She leaned closer, like she was about to share a secret. Her bracelet clinked against the chair, a small nervous sound. Aubrey, please don't do this here. Me, I'm not doing anything, I'm eating dinner. Aubrey's gaze darted to Graham at the head of the table. He was watching us now, pretending he wasn't. His smile stayed in place. His eyes did not. Aubrey's voice dropped even lower. Aubrey, I didn't... Me, save it. The word came out calm, almost gentle, but it landed heavy. Aubrey straightened and set her smile back on like lipstick. She patted my shoulder. Once, quick, like I was a coworker. Then she moved on. My skin crawled where she touched me. I kept breathing through my nose, slow, because my mouth felt unreliable. Around us, people laughed, oblivious, swallowing the story Graham fed them. Dessert arrived, little chocolate cakes with raspberry sauce. The smell was sweet and too much, like frosting on a bruise. I stared at the plate and thought about my bank app. I checked it in the shuttle, out of habit. Rent due next week. Student loan auto pay on the 1st. Promotion promised, not signed. Graham's laugh rang out at the head of the table. He raised his phone like he was about to post. Group photo, he said. Everyone stood, pressing in close. Bodies, perfume, whiskey, the dense warmth of a room that didn't care. I got shoved forward shoulder to shoulder with people who had no idea. Graham motioned me toward the front. Harper, get in here, he said loud enough for everyone. Come meet the bride. Aubrey's hand reached for mine like it was natural. Her fingers were cold from the snow. She squeezed once, too tight, too deliberate. In my ear, she whispered, breath minty and thin, Aubrey, if you say anything, you'll lose your job. My smile stayed, but my stomach dropped so fast it felt like falling. The camera flash popped, bright and cruel, and behind Aubrey's shoulder, I saw Graham slip a small manila envelope to Lana. Lana didn't open it. She just slid it into her blazer like it weighed nothing. I inhaled, and all I smelled was paper and perfume and a lie that had been planned for months. I inhaled, and all I smelled was paper and perfume and a lie that had been planned for months. The camera flash left a white burn behind my eyes. For a moment, everyone looked like cutouts. Too bright, too flat. String lights along the rafters blurred into halos. Hair in the fire turned into a smear of orange. Graham tucked his phone away and kept smiling. Aubrey's fingers stayed latched to mine like a clamp. Her ringless hand, his future wife, and not a single person asked to see a diamond. Mark, Harper, scoot in, you're blocking Lana. Me, sorry. My voice came out clean. My body didn't feel clean. Aubrey leaned in again, still smiling for the group. Aubrey, I'm serious. Me, so am I. 2 sentences, both quiet, both sharp. When the photo frenzy ended, people drifted toward the bar. The lodge lights dimmed, but the overhead chandeliers kept throwing glitter across glassware. Every reflection felt like an eye. I let my hand fall from Aubrey's grip. My skin tingled where she'd squeezed. I adjusted my lanyard like that could re-anchor me to reality. Graham stepped between us with perfect timing. Graham, Harper, you've been killing it lately. Me, thank you. Graham, tomorrow we'll talk about next steps. Exciting week. His grin widened. And hey, be nice. Be nice. Like I was the problem that needed managing. I excused myself before my face betrayed me. The hallway outside the dining room was darker, lit by amber sconces that made everything look softer than it was. My shadow stretched long on the wood floor, skinny and restless. In the women's bathroom, the mirror lights were brutal. I stared at my own pupils, huge, like I'd taken something. I ran cold water over my wrists until my skin numbed. My phone buzzed. A new Slack message from Tessa. Tessa. What is happening? Are you okay? Me. I'm fine. Don't start anything. Tessa. Too late. People are already talking. I didn't answer that. I dried my hands and watched the paper towel tear unevenly. Tiny thing, but it made my jaw tighten. In my room, upstairs, the curtains didn't close all the way. Moonlight cut a thin silver line across the carpet, straight as a ruler. Outside, snow reflected the lodge's floodlights, turning the whole mountain into a bright, icy stage. I sat on the edge of the bed with my shoes still on. My mind kept looping on one detail: her bare ring finger, future wife, no ring, announcement, no proof, and the envelope. Manila, small, passed like contraband to Lana. Not romance, not celebration, something administrative. A sentence landed in my head, calm and ugly. Public love stories are sometimes just cover stories. And I opened my suitcase and pulled out the notebook I'd packed for ideas. The first page had my quarterly goals written in neat ink. Under it, a folded Walmart receipt. Trial size antacid. 5:12 p.m. I wrote one line beneath my goals. Timeline matters. Light kept hitting me in pieces. The bedside lamp threw a warm circle on the comforter. My phone screen glowed blue. And in between, the room stayed cold and dark, like it was holding secrets on purpose. Aubrey and I had broken up 11 months ago. She'd said it was about pressure, about figuring herself out. We were parked outside the Starbucks on Colfax, my old Civic idling like it was tired of us. Her drink sat in the cup holder, untouched. The green logo on the cup looked neon under the parking lot lights. She kept turning that cardboard sleeve over and over, until it softened. Me. Is there someone else? Aubrey. No, God, no. Me. Then why are you doing this? Aubrey. Because you're building a life, and I feel like I'm watching it happen without me. That had sounded almost sweet at the time, like she was setting me free. Now it sounded rehearsed, like a line that made her look gentle. I'd begged for details anyway. Not loud begging, the quiet kind. The kind that keeps dignity but still breaks. She wouldn't give me anything solid. Aubrey. I need space. Me. How much? Aubrey. Harper, don't make me hate this. I remember the light then, too. Blue-white LED from the street lamp on her cheekbones. My dashboard clock glowing 9:47 p.m. like a warning. My Starbucks straw wrapper shining on the floorboard like trash that wouldn't leave. After she got out of the car, she didn't look back. And I watched her walk into her apartment building, the motion sensor light snapping on above the door. A clean rectangle of brightness, then darkness again. That night, I drove home and told myself to be adult about it. I updated my autopay, I cleaned my kitchen, I acted like control was the same as healing. The next week at work, Graham started checking on me more. He'd stop by my desk with that polished concern. Graham, you holding up? Me, yeah. Graham, good, because I've got big plans for you. At the time, it felt like support. Now I saw the angle of it. People who watch you fall learn where you're fragile. I lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling. The recessed lights were off, but the fire exit sign in the hallway leaked red through the crack under my door. The color pulsed like a slow heartbeat. And I opened my email and searched Aubrey's name, half hoping nothing would appear, nothing in official threads. But then I remembered. Aubrey never used her real name on LinkedIn. She used Aubrey H., and Graham had introduced her as Aubrey Hale, full name like he owned the syllables. I pulled up LinkedIn on my phone. The screen brightened my face, harsh and unforgiving. Her profile photo was new. So was her job title. Independent consultant, brand strategy. Brand strategy. The same phrase Graham used in meetings when he wanted to sound modern. The same phrase he'd written on the retreat agenda under special guest discussion. My thumb hovered over her activity, a post from 2 weeks ago, a photo of snow-covered mountains captioned, "New chapters." No tag, no location. But the lodge's balcony rail was in the background. So she'd been here before. Not tonight, not as a surprise. Before. I took a screenshot and dropped it into a hidden album labeled DMV. It was petty camouflage, but it made me feel smarter. Then I did what I always do when I'm scared. I made a list. Breakup date. First time Graham started mentoring me more closely. Any overlap, any contact, any proof. That envelope. The list looked small under the lamp's circle, but it steadied my breathing. Paper doesn't flinch. Dates don't lie. I fell asleep with the curtains still cracked. Morning light pried its way in early, pale, and relentless. It made the room look like it had been dusted in chalk. Downstairs at breakfast, the dining hall had changed personalities. No fire theatrics, just bright windows and clinking coffee cups. Sunlight bounced off the snow outside and flooded the room, exposing everything. The hotel staff set out eggs, bacon, and pastries that looked too perfect. A Starbucks traveler box sat at the end of the buffet, cardboard brown with the siren logo. People lined up like it was normal life. I grabbed a cup and watched my hands. No shaking. I refused. I stared into the dark coffee until it looked like a mirror. Behind me, I heard Aubrey's laugh. It sounded lighter in the morning. It also sounded practiced. I turned and sunlight hit her hair like a spotlight. She stood at the buffet with Graham, close enough their shoulders touched. He handed her a napkin the way you hand someone a promise. Graham, you'll love today's session. Aubrey, as long as Harper isn't running it. Her eyes slid to me when she said my name, quick and sharp. And the cup in my hand creaked. Hot coffee sloshed, almost spilling. Graham followed her gaze and smiled at me like we were all in on a joke. And in that full, brutal daylight, I realized something worse than betrayal. They wanted me to watch. They wanted me to watch. The morning agenda was taped to my lanyard in a plastic sleeve. The edge scratched my collarbone every time I moved. Small irritation, constant pressure, like a hand that wouldn't lift. We filed into the conference room with coffee cups and polite smiles. The chairs were rough gray fabric, the kind that catches on tights. When I sat, the seam tugged at my skin and held on. Graham clapped once. "Today is about trust," he said, voice smooth for the room. Then his eyes settled on me. "And welcoming new energy." Aubrey sat in the front row like she'd earned the seat. Her notebook was open, pen poised. When she glanced back, her gaze jumped over me like I was a gap in the floor. Tessa slid in beside me, knee brushing mine under the table. Her touch was warm, steadying. "You're handling this like a Navy SEAL," she whispered. "I'm handling it like I need health insurance," I whispered back. Graham started assigning roles for the day like he was handing out sentences. "Mark, you'll lead the breakout. Jules, your logistics." Then, casual as breathing, "Harper, you'll be liaison for Aubrey." Liaison, a word that meant serve her, a word that meant swallow it. He smiled wider, proud of his own cruelty. "She's here to observe and contribute," he added. "Make sure she has everything she needs." Aubrey didn't turn around. No protest, no hesitation. Her silence was permission. After the session, Graham stopped me near the doorway. His fingers landed on my elbow, light, controlling, friendly to anyone watching. "Be a professional," he murmured. "I always am," I said. His grip tightened a fraction before he let go. In the hallway, people formed little whisper circles. I caught pieces as I passed. Didn't know Whitaker was like that. She's gorgeous, though. Harper's been grinding for years. Gorgeous versus grinding, like we were competing in different sports. At the coffee station, someone left a stack of blank name tags and Sharpies. Aubrey picked up a marker, then looked at me like I was staff. "Fresh one?" she asked. I peeled a new tag and handed it over. Our fingers brushed. Quick, accidental contact. Her skin was cold. Mine was warm from the cup. She pulled back fast, like warmth was dangerous. She wrote Aubrey in neat block letters, under it smaller. "Future Mrs. Whitaker?" A playful question mark for anyone watching. A couple people laughed. Someone snapped a photo. The marker squeaked on plastic like a tiny scream. We moved outside for a trust challenge on the snowy lawn. They handed out orange safety vests and blindfolds. Nylon rasped against my sleeves when I tugged mine on. Velcro tore loud when I adjusted it, the sound sharp enough to sting. Graham pointed straight at me. "Harper, you're with Aubrey's group." Then he added, "Aubrey, you guide." Of course. Aubrey lifted the blindfold and stepped close. Her fingers hovered near my face, unsure. I could feel her hesitation more than her touch. "Aubrey, ready?" Me. "Do we have a choice?" She tied the cloth behind my head with a neat bow. On the fabric pressed against my eyelashes and cheeks. Her fingertips grazed the back of my neck, barely, then vanished. "Forward," she said. A palm landed between my shoulder blades, just enough pressure to steer. Not tender, not familiar, functional. Snow crunched under my boots. People laughed when someone stumbled. Graham's voice cut through it, bright with performance. "Careful, Harper," he called. "Wouldn't want you to fall." Again. Again. He made it sound like a joke. It felt like a label. When Aubrey removed the blindfold, daylight stabbed my eyes. She stepped back immediately and wiped her hands on her coat pocket, like I was a sticky railing in a public stairwell. Lunch was worse because it was quiet. We ate at long picnic tables, the wood edges rough under my forearms. Aubrey slid across from me without asking. And she set her phone down, face up, screen bright. A photo. Her hand in Graham's on this same balcony, their fingers laced like a promise. My jaw tightened until my teeth ached. Mark leaned in, grinning. "So, Aubrey, how'd you meet Whitaker?" Aubrey smiled like butter wouldn't melt. "Work," she said. "Work where?" Mark pressed. "Consulting," she answered. He noticed my potential. Potential. My word. Graham had fed it to me like candy when he wanted loyalty. Across the room, Graham watched while he chewed. He didn't blink. His gaze flicked to my hands like he was waiting for me to crack. I didn't. That was my power. Silence can be a weapon if you hold it on purpose. In the afternoon workshop, Graham handed out thick folders. When he set mine on the table, his fingers brushed mine. Deliberate. His cologne hit me. A clean and expensive and too close. "You're doing great," he said softly. "Keep it up and you'll still get what you want." "I want fairness," I said. His smile didn't move. "Same thing," he replied, and walked away. Inside the folder, the printed slide deck had my name on the cover, and underneath it, hers. Harper Lane plus Aubrey Hale, co-facilitators. My pulse beat in my fingertips. He was tying my credibility to her introduction, braiding my work into her future. Tessa peeked over my shoulder, eyes wide. "Is he serious?" "He's serious," I said. "That's why it's dangerous." We worked in a breakout room with a whiteboard and stale markers. The chairs were hard plastic, the kind that makes your hips ache. Aubrey stood by the board, keeping distance like it was policy. Anytime I spoke, she nodded like I was a helpful stranger. Hey, me. We should frame the strategy around retention. Aubrey. Sure, she cut in, but leadership likes bigger words. She wrote synergy in huge letters. The marker squealed loud in the tight space, and just like that, my idea became her handwriting. During break, I stepped into the corridor for water. The paper cup felt thin and waxy in my grip. I heard voices around the corner, Graham's and Lana's. I slowed, then stopped. Lana. You can't announce her like that without disclosure. Graham. It's not your problem. Lana. It becomes my problem when legal asks why you bypassed policy. My skin prickled. Policy. Legal. Graham's voice dropped sharp. The paperwork is handled. I had it notarized last week. Lana. Notarized doesn't make it ethical. Graham. It makes it defensible. A pause. Then Lana, flat as a stamp. And Harper? Graham. She'll behave. She needs the promotion. Lana. You're counting on her silence. Graham. I'm counting on her rent. My fingers went numb around the flimsy cup. Water sloshed onto my knuckles, cold and bright. I stood there unseen as my boss turned my life into a payment date. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just adjusted my grip until the cup stopped trembling. Because in that hallway, I finally felt it. Not heartbreak, a handle. And I knew exactly where to pull. And I knew exactly where to pull. The lodge got louder after dinner, like everyone had been uncorked. People drifted into pockets. Bar, fireplace, game room, laughing too hard. Bodies moved around me in slow, careless currents. I took the long way to the balcony doors, not because I wanted air, because I needed space that didn't belong to Graham. Yes, the hallway outside the bar was tight, shoulder to shoulder. Perfume, whiskey, and wet wool layered until my lungs felt crowded. Someone bumped my arm and said, "Sorry, Harper," like I was furniture. I smiled anyway. My mouth knew the script. My mind was already collecting exits. At the glass doors, cold leaked through the seams. A gust carried pine sap and wood smoke from the fire pit below. It cut the room's sweetness like a blade. I stepped outside. The balcony wrapped around the lodge, wide enough for a crowd. Tonight it held only a few clusters, smokers, whisperers, the too intimate. Their voices floated in pieces, carried by the mountain wind. I leaned against the railing and looked down at the snow. Footprints crisscrossed the courtyard like messy signatures. Every path led somewhere. Every path left proof. Behind me, laughter burst from the bar when someone missed a dartboard shot. Inside was warm and loud. Out here was cold and honest. My phone vibrated in my hand, another Slack from Tessa. Tessa. He's playing chess. Don't let him make you a pawn. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I slid my phone into my coat pocket and felt the hard edge of my charger brick. A small, grounding object. The balcony door opened again. More voices spilled out, then the door clicked shut. I stayed still, half in shadow near a support beam. Graham's voice came first, low and amused, then Lana's, clipped and tired, and a third voice, male, unfamiliar, like someone from legal. They didn't see me. They didn't look for me. They assumed I'd be inside, grateful, obedient. Lana. The retreat photo is already circulating. Graham. Good. Let it circulate. Legal. Public perception isn't the same as compliance. Their footsteps stopped a few feet away near the far corner. They chose that spot because it was private. They forgot the balcony carried sound. I pressed my shoulder into the beam and held my breath through my nose. The cold made my eyes water. I let it look like winter, not emotion, legal. You're the final signer on the promotion packet. Graham. And I'll sign it when the timing benefits me. Lana. You promised Harper. Graham. I promised her a possibility, not a guarantee. A quiet laugh from Graham. It sounded like ice in a glass. Graham. Besides, and Aubrey's the better long-term investment. Legal. Is she even on payroll? Graham. She will be. Lana. You can't hire someone you're engaged to without disclosure. Graham. I disclosed. Legal. To who? Graham. To myself. Lana exhaled hard, a cloud in the air. Lana. You filed something. That envelope, what is it? Graham. A relationship attestation. Signed. Witnessed. Legal. Notarized? Graham. Notarized. County stamp and everything. County stamp. My stomach tightened around the words. Legal. That doesn't solve the conflict, it just documents it. Graham. Documentation is the whole game. Lana. You're treating people like line items. Graham. People are line items, especially the ones who need rent money. My nails dug into my palm again, deeper this time. His words were casual, almost bored. Like cruelty was a routine meeting. Aubrey's laugh drifted from inside the lodge, bright and distant. Graham's head turned slightly, like he could sense her through walls. Then he leaned closer to Lana and Legal. Graham. Tomorrow morning we announce the new org structure. Legal. You're doing it here? Graham. Retreats are perfect. No paper trail on the day, just applause. Lana. Harper's team will revolt. Graham. Harper will talk them down. Legal. And if she doesn't? Graham. She will. She's disciplined. That's why I picked her. Lana. Picked her for what? Graham. To carry the work while I choose the winners. The wind shoved hard against the railing. Someone inside opened a door and the crowd noise swelled, then faded. My throat felt tight, but my mind stayed sharp. I reached into my pocket for my phone. My thumb hit the screen and the lock lit my face blue. The voice memo app was still open from earlier. I'd used it in the workshop to capture action items when markers died. The red dot was already there. Recording. A stupid, lucky accident. A mistake I made on a day I was too busy surviving. My pulse thudded in my ears, loud enough to betray me. I kept my hands still and let the phone keep listening. Legal. You're aware the board asked me to monitor you. Graham. Monitor away. Lana. Graham, stop acting untouchable. Graham. I'm not acting. Legal. There are complaints. Graham. From who? People who can't hack it? Lana. From women you corner in conference rooms. Graham. Allegations. Legal. Patterns. A pause. Wind. A distant cheer from inside. Then Graham, softer, almost amused, saying, Graham, Harper won't complain. Lana. Why are you so sure? Graham. Because I know her file. File. The word made my skin go cold in a new way. Legal. Her employee file? Graham. Her life file. Credit score, lease, student loans, she's predictable. Lana. That's disgusting. Graham. That's management. I stared out at the snow, at the footprints, at the evidence paths. My breath fogged the air in steady bursts. My hand stayed hidden in my pocket. Phone recording like a witness. Legal. If this gets out, you're exposed. Graham. Then it won't. Lana. You can't control everyone. Graham. I only need to control the ones who matter. He shifted, and I heard the scrape of his shoe on ice. Then his voice turned brighter, like he was smiling. Graham. Harper matters, Aubrey matters, the rest are noise. I swallowed, slow. A line formed in my head, clean and quotable. People don't break you with fists. They break you with paperwork. I let that thought settle, heavy and calm. Lana. You're creating a liability. Graham. I'm creating a legacy. Legal. Your legacy could come with a case number. Graham. Only if someone is brave enough to file it. Brave enough. The balcony door opened behind me with a soft hiss. I didn't turn. I couldn't. Aubrey's heels clicked on the wood planks, crisp and confident. Aubrey. There you are, she said, sweet as sugar. Her voice was close, too close, and the crowd inside roared at a joke I couldn't hear. Graham's tone flipped instantly, warm and affectionate. Graham. Hey, babe. He said it like a claim. Aubrey. Are we still doing the morning announcement? Graham. Of course. Aubrey. Good. I want her to see it. Her to see it. I felt the sentence like a hand on my throat. The wind shifted, and the clusters on the balcony drifted nearer. Space shrank. Air thinned. I slid one step back into the shadow, slow and silent. My phone kept recording, red dot steady. Aubrey, did you handle Harper? Graham, she's handled. Aubrey, she looked like she might bite. Graham, she won't, she's too smart to ruin herself. I pressed my tongue to the back of my teeth. I tasted champagne and metal again, even without a drink. A reflective thought rose, quiet and clear. Sometimes the person you love becomes the person who studies you. Aubrey laughed, soft. Aubrey, then let's give her something to chew on. The balcony door swung wider as more people spilled out for air. Bodies filled the space, talking, smoking, leaning on rails. And I was trapped among strangers while my enemies stood 10 feet away, and my phone, in my pocket, held their voices like a loaded match. And my phone, in my pocket, held their voices like a loaded match. The cold on that balcony wasn't romantic. It was surgical. It sliced through my coat and into my ribs. When the crowd surged out, warmth escaped behind them. Heat from the lodge rolled past my ankles, then vanished. I stayed in the thin strip of winter, breathing steam. A guy from sales offered me a cigarette like we were friends. Want one? He asked. I don't smoke, I said, and watched the ember glow anyway. The fire pit below popped and hissed. Someone said the hot tub was mandatory. Aubrey laughed like she'd invented the idea. I stepped back inside before my teeth started chattering. The lodge hit me with sudden heat. Too much. Too fast. My cheeks flushed and my palms went damp in my gloves. Cold makes you sharp. Warmth tries to convince you everything is fine. Graham spotted me immediately. He lifted his whiskey in a little salute. Harper, he called. There you are. Aubrey stood beside him, her cream sweater swapped for a silky blouse. She looked comfortable in the warmth, like it belonged to her. Her eyes flicked to my pockets, quick checking. I kept my hands visible. I kept my smile light. I walked up like I was congratulating a coworker. Me. Congrats again, Aubrey. Aubrey. Thank you. Me. You two seem happy. Graham's hand slid to the small of her back. Very, he said. His voice had sugar on it, but his eyes stayed cold. I lifted my glass. Water, not champagne now. The condensation made it slick. Cheers, I said, and took a careful sip. A quotable line, clean and quiet. I learned that night you can clap for someone and still be plotting their downfall. Aubrey leaned in, her perfume blooming in the heated air. Aubrey, you're being good. Me, I'm being professional. She smiled like she'd won a point. Then she turned away and pressed her shoulder into Graham's, claiming him in public. I drifted toward the hallway, pretending I needed the restroom. My phone felt heavy, like a brick with a heartbeat. The recording had ended when I locked the screen, but the file was there. In my room, the thermostat was set to 72. The vent blew warm air that smelled faintly of dust. I stood under it for a second, letting heat steady my hands. Then I opened the voice memo. Graham's laugh filled the tiny speaker, Lana's clipped warnings, and the legal guy saying patterns. Aubrey's, I want her to see it. My stomach turned, but my mind stayed calm. Not because I was okay, because I finally had something real. I saved the file to my notes app, then emailed it to myself from my personal account. Subject line, DMV renewal. Because if anyone searched my inbox, it would look like boring life admin. I also backed it up to a folder labeled Lease Docs. I'd learned after the county clerk line that dull labels keep nosy people moving. The room was warm, but my fingers were cold as I typed. I opened my work email and started searching with purpose. Aubrey Hale, Aubrey H. Consultant, Brand Strategy, Retreat Agenda. Nothing obvious. Graham didn't write things down when he was doing something dirty. He made other people write them. So I searched for the language he loved. Special projects, strategy support, attestation, disclosure. One thread popped up from 3 months ago. Subject, consulting vendor, NDA draft. Sent by Graham to our operations inbox, copied to legal. My pulse slowed. This was older than the breakup. I opened it and scanned fast. A vendor name, Hale Strategy, LLC, Aubrey's signature block below it, and an attachment, NDA_Hale Strategy_V3.pdf. My hand stayed steady. Inside, something snapped into place with a quiet click. Flashback hit me like cold water. It was July 4th weekend, last summer. Aubrey and I were at a friend's backyard BBQ in Lakewood. Red cups, cheap burgers, someone lighting sparklers too close to the fence. Aubrey kept checking her phone, not texting me, scrolling, refreshing, waiting. When I asked, she smiled too quickly. Hey, Aubrey, just a client thing. Me. On a holiday? Aubrey, it's fine. Don't start. Don't start. Same words, different night. I closed the email and opened my calendar. I pulled up the week of that BBQ. Then I pulled up my Slack history with Graham. He'd messaged me on July 6th. Quick call, need to run something by you. He never asked for quick calls unless he wanted control. I remembered taking it in a Starbucks drive-through line, phone wedged on the dashboard. The barista handed me my drink with a smile and a misspelled name, Harpar. I laughed then. Now it felt like a sign. Even my identity was easy to rewrite. I started building a timeline in my notebook. Dates, times, receipts, screenshots. My handwriting stayed neat because chaos loves messy pages. Reflective line, steady. When people underestimate you, they leave evidence in plain sight. Downstairs, the lodge heated up with late-night games. I could hear muffled laughter through the floor. It sounded like other people's safety. I pulled my laptop closer and drafted an email to HR. Not dramatic, not accusatory, just a request for a confidential meeting when we returned. Hi, Dana, I typed. I'd like to schedule a private conversation regarding a potential compliance concern. I'm available Monday afternoon. Please confirm. I didn't mention names. I didn't mention romance. I mentioned compliance. Then I hesitated and added one sentence, carefully. I have documentation relevant to this concern. I saved it as a draft. Sending it now would be a flare in the dark. I needed to walk out of this retreat first. My phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Tessa. It was Lana. Had unknown number, but the text preview showed her name. Harper, can you step into the hallway outside Conference B, alone? Heat from the vent dried my eyes too fast. My throat tightened again, but I stood up anyway. The carpet felt warm under my bare feet, like the building itself was pretending to comfort me. I slipped my phone into my pocket, recording shortcut ready. Then I opened my door and stepped into the cooler hall. Lana was waiting by the ice machine. The machine hummed and clicked, spitting cubes into a metal bin. Cold air spilled from its vent, brushing my ankles. She didn't smile. She didn't waste words. Lana. How much did you hear? Me. Enough. Lana. Do you have proof? Me. Yes. For the first time since dinner, the temperature in my chest changed. Not warm, not cold, something like steel. Lana glanced up and down the hallway, then lowered her voice. Lana. Good, because legal is already circling him. Me. Then why is he still running this retreat? Lana. Because the board needs a clean package. She slid a business card into my hand. The paper was thick, cold from her fingers. On it, a law firm name and a direct line. Lana. Call this number Monday. Tell them you're the witness. Me. Witness to what? Lana. To the thing he thinks you'll stay quiet about. The ice machine dumped another batch with a harsh clatter. It sounded like applause turned into hail. Lana's gaze locked on mine. Lana. He's going to announce the org chart tomorrow. He'll make you applaud your own replacement. Me. What do I do? Lana. You let him. She stepped closer, voice barely above the hum. Lana. And you keep breathing. The temperature changes. People don't. Then she walked away, heels sharp on the carpet. The hallway felt colder after she left, like the lodge had exhaled. I stood there with the card in my palm. Cold ink, warm skin, and the uneasy sense that Monday wasn't going to be an HR meeting. It was going to be a case file. It was going to be a case file. The next morning, the lodge felt scratchy in every way. Towels rough, carpet rough. Even my sweater collar rubbed my neck raw. Texture was the only thing I could trust, because feelings kept shifting. Downstairs, the conference room chairs had that cheap woven fabric, the kind that pills if you drag your nails across it. I did it anyway, once, like a test. It caught, and I smiled. Graham stood by the projector, tapping a pen against his folder. Click, click, click. Each click sounded like a lock closing. Aubrey sat beside him in a crisp navy blazer, notebook open. When I walked in, Graham just nodded toward the front row. A silent command, "Sit where I can see you." Graham, "All right, team, new day, new structure." He clicked to the org chart. Boxes, lines, names in bold. My skin tightened before my brain even read it. Product operations. Harper Lane now sat under integration support. Smaller, lower. A polite demotion wearing a clean font. Above it, brand new. Director Strategy Programs. Aubrey Hale, interim. People murmured. I felt the lanyard cord bite the back of my neck. Graham, "Streamlined approvals, better alignment." He didn't say, "I'm giving your lane to my fiancé." Aubrey stood and smoothed her sleeve. The fabric whispered under her fingertips. She smiled at the room and then looked straight at me. "Aubrey, I'm excited to learn from the systems Harper built." Learn from, not credit, not gratitude, just absorption. My hands stayed flat on the table. I pressed my fingertips to the wood grain, ridges, grooves, something real. They didn't steal my job in one move. They sanded it down until it fit her hand. When the session broke, people swarmed Graham. I waited until the room thinned, then slid to the side table. Org structure packet when draft sat in a neat stack on thick paper. I took one and walked to the business center. The hallway smelled like toner and carpet glue. The printer there sounded dry and gritty, like it hated secrets. In the appendix, I found it. Code of Conduct, Relationship Disclosure and Reporting. I'd never cared about this section. I wasn't stupid enough to date a supervisor. But I cared now because Graham made romance a business decision. The clause that mattered was blunt. Any romantic relationship that creates a conflict must be disclosed. Leaders must recuse themselves from decisions involving the person. Retaliation for reporting is prohibited. Then the line that made my mouth go dry. Any failure to disclose may result in disciplinary action up to and including termination. Any attempt to conceal or falsify disclosure documentation is a violation. Falsify. Notarized didn't mean honest. It meant someone watched you sign. Policies are boring until they're the only thing between you and someone else's power. I snapped photos of the pages and saved them to my hidden DMV album. Then I folded the printout and slid it into my notebook, careful not to crease the key paragraph. My phone buzzed. "Send Aubrey. Meet me by the vending machines. Need help with the packet." Of course she picked a public hallway, a place where people wander and listen. The carpet there was worn thin. You could feel the hard floor beneath, like the building had lost patience. Aubrey waited with a folder hugged to her chest, corners bending under her grip. "Aubrey, thank you for not making a scene." Me, "Scenes are for people with nothing to lose." Her smile tightened. "Aubrey, he said you'd be okay with this." Me, "He says things to make people convenient." She picked at the folder edge, shredding paper fibers. "Aubrey, he promised me security." Me, "He promised you my work." That landed. Her eyes flicked toward the ice machine down the hall like she wanted an exit. Then she tried again, softer. "Dear Aubrey, are you going to report him?" Me, "Are you going to tell the truth?" She didn't answer. Her silence had texture too, thick, sticky, hard to wash off. I led her toward the business center anyway. There was a dusty security dome in the ceiling corner. I wanted our faces under something that remembered. Aubrey saw the policy page on the desk and froze. Aubrey, "What is that?" Me, "Company rules." Aubrey, "He said it's handled. He had something notarized." Me, "A stamp isn't a shield. When someone calls you emotional, hand them a policy and watch them sweat." Her phone buzzed and her face changed. Aubrey, "He wants me upstairs." Me, "Go." Before she left, she leaned close, vanilla perfume warm in the heated air. Aubrey, "If you do this, you'll burn the whole place down." Me, "No, he did. I'm just documenting it." She walked out fast, heels tapping, leaving fingerprints on the printer tray. I stared at the smudges until my breathing steadied. Back in my room, I checked my bank app like it could explain what was happening. Rent draft pending, student loan auto-pay queued, my whole month balanced on a paycheck Graham treated like a lever. On the desk, Lana's business card sat beside my room key. The cardstock edge was sharp enough to leave a line in my thumb. A law firm number, a direct extension, Monday, waiting. And somewhere back home, my Social Security portal still showed my last W-2, a neat digital record of a life that looked stable on paper. Stability is easy to fake if you control the story. I logged into the employee portal and pulled the policy PDF. Same clause, same threat. And I downloaded it and saved it as lease_2026_renewal.pdf. Then I opened my draft email to HR. I attached the voice memo. I attached the policy PDF. I pasted the falsify clause into the body. I didn't send. Waiting isn't weakness when you're building a clean strike. Outside my window, snow slid off the roof in heavy sheets. It landed with a soft thump, then broke apart. I watched it and thought about structures. My phone buzzed. Tessa. Tessa. All hands in 20, you coming? Me. Yes. Tessa. You don't have to smile. Me. I know, but I will. I closed my laptop, feeling the textured rubber of the cover under my palm. Then I slipped my lanyard on again. The cord scratched my neck. I let it. The cord scratched my neck. I let it. The all-hands meeting was scheduled in the largest conference room, and someone had dimmed the lights for the projector, but soft instrumental music played from the ceiling speakers. It was the kind of corporate playlist meant to calm investors. The music made everything feel staged. I took a seat near the center, not front, not back, a strategic position, visible but not cornered. My phone rested face down on the table, screen dark, power steady. Graham stood near the screen, relaxed. Aubrey sat one chair to his right. Lana remained against the far wall, arms crossed, unreadable. The music faded out. Graham, before we close this retreat, I want to celebrate evolution. Evolution. The word lingered like smoke. He clicked to the org chart again. Boxes, arrows, names in bold. My demotion displayed like a minor formatting change. Graham, change isn't always comfortable, but it's necessary. My skin felt electric, like static before a storm. The air in the room had texture, thick, expectant. Aubrey stood when he gestured. Her blazer caught the projector's glow, navy shifting to almost black. She smiled with calm confidence. Aubrey, I'm grateful for this opportunity. I believe in collaboration. Collaboration. A word that tastes good but hides ownership. People clapped. Not wildly, not cautiously. Just enough. Graham looked at me. Graham, Harper, anything you'd like to add? He offered it like generosity. It was bait. I stood slowly. My chair legs scraped against the carpet. Every head turned, not silent, but focused. The projector's light hit my face, warm and unforgiving. I could feel it against my cheekbones like interrogation lamps in old movies. Me. Yes. My voice didn't shake. At me. I'd like to clarify something about policy. The word landed differently than collaboration. Graham's smile thinned. Aubrey's shoulders stiffened, just slightly. Me. Specifically, our disclosure and recusal requirements regarding supervisor relationships. A ripple moved through the room. Not panic, not chaos, just awareness shifting direction. Graham, this isn't the forum for me. Actually, it is. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I reached down and turned my phone face up. The screen glowed bright in the dim room. Me. I have documentation that may impact this restructure. My pulse was steady. My hands were warm. The music had stopped completely now. Lana pushed off the wall and stepped forward. Lana. Harper, please continue. Her tone was neutral, but her eyes said proceed. Graham's jaw tightened. Graham, we can take this offline. Me. Transparency shouldn't be offline. I tapped my screen. The speaker icon lit up, and then Graham's voice filled the room. I promised her a possibility, not a guarantee. A small intake of breath from someone near the back, then more. She's predictable. Aubrey's face drained of color. People are line items, especially the ones who need rent money. The room didn't erupt. It shifted. Chairs creaked. Someone muttered, "What the hell?" Graham stepped forward fast. Graham, that's taken out of context. Me, there's more. I didn't rush. I let the recording play long enough to carry weight. You're aware the board asked me to monitor you. That line hung heavier than the rest. Lana's expression changed, barely. Legal's name wasn't spoken in the room, but everyone understood implication. I stopped the recording. The silence wasn't cinematic. It was practical, calculating. Graham, you recorded a private conversation? Me, I documented a compliance risk. Aubrey finally spoke. Aubrey, Harper, this isn't necessary. Her voice cracked, not loudly, but honestly. I looked at her. Me, was it necessary to demote me without disclosure? She blinked. Graham tried to reassert control. Graham, this is retaliation. Me, it's policy. I held up the printed page. The paper felt thin in my fingers, but it carried more weight than his title. Me, failure to disclose may result in disciplinary action up to and including termination. I didn't read the whole clause. I didn't need to. Lana stepped fully into the center. Lana, Graham, now did you formally disclose this relationship to the board before implementing the restructure? His pause lasted 2 seconds too long. Graham, the attestation was notarized. Lana, that wasn't the question. Aubrey looked at him. Aubrey, you said it was approved. Graham didn't answer her, and in that microsecond, the power shifted. Not explosive, structural, like a building settling after a foundation crack. Lana addressed the room. Lana, we're going to pause this restructure pending review. She turned to Graham. Lana, you'll step away from operational decisions effective immediately. He stared at her. Graham, you don't have that authority. Lana, I do today. No one applauded. No one gasped. They simply watched a hierarchy tilt. Aubrey looked at me then, not angry, confused. A crack had formed in the story she'd been handed. She whispered, barely audible. Aubrey, you said we were safe. Graham didn't look at her. I felt something strange in that moment. Not victory, clarity. When someone builds their future on your silence, your voice becomes an earthquake. Lana turned to me. Lana, Harper, I'll need that file forwarded to legal. Me, it is already backed up. Preparedness feels like oxygen when you've been drowning. Graham gathered his folder, movements sharp. Graham, this isn't over. Me, no, I said. It's documented. The meeting dissolved slowly. People stood in clusters, whispering. Phones came out, messages flew. Aubrey stayed seated. I walked toward the door, not rushing. As I passed her, she spoke. Aubrey, he told me you were unstable. I stopped. And me, he told me you needed security. She looked down at her bare ring finger, and for the first time, she didn't look like a winner. And for the first time, she didn't look like a winner. The retreat ended without ceremony. No closing toast, no group hike, just quiet packing and strained eye contact in the lobby. Graham didn't ride the shuttle back to Denver with us. Lana announced it casually near the front desk. Mr. Whitaker will remain on leave pending internal review. On leave. 2 words that felt heavier than termination. The shuttle ride home was muted. No podcast this time. No loud laughter, just the hum of tires over frozen highway. I stared at the mountains shrinking in the rear-view mirror. Snow melts eventually. Paper doesn't. Back in the office Monday, the air felt thinner. People spoke in lower tones. The Slack notifications pinged faster than usual. Graham's name disappeared from the org chart by noon. His email auto-reply read, "Currently unavailable. For urgent matters, contact legal." By 2:14 p.m., his LinkedIn engagement announcement vanished. No future wife photo, no comments, no heart emojis, like it had never happened. But the damage didn't erase with a delete button. Lana called me into conference room B. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead. The table was cold under my palms. A man from legal joined us. Mid-40s, gray suit, careful eyes. He introduced himself formally. Daniel Mercer, corporate counsel. He placed a thin folder on the table. My name was on it. Daniel. We've reviewed your recording and supporting documentation. My pulse stayed steady. And Daniel. There were prior complaints. Lana's jaw tightened slightly. Daniel continued. None substantiated, insufficient evidence. Until now, he slid a printed transcript across the table. The paper was crisp, highlighted sections in yellow. My proof turned official. Daniel. The board initiated a quiet inquiry 2 months ago. 2 months. That meant they were already watching him when he announced her. Daniel. Your recording provides corroboration. Corroboration? A word that feels like armor. I swallowed. Me. What happens now? Daniel folded his hands. Daniel. Administrative suspension pending final review. Potential termination. Severance void if misconduct confirmed. Lana added quietly, and the restructure is frozen. Frozen. Like snow on a roof waiting to fall. I nodded once. No celebration, no triumph. Just confirmation. By Wednesday, the office shifted again. HR sent a formal memo referencing compliance violations. Graham's access badge was deactivated. Security walked him out mid-afternoon. No shouting, no dramatic scene, just a cardboard box and a stiff jaw. People watched from their desks but pretended not to. He didn't look at me when he passed, but he slowed. Just enough. Graham. You think this ends well for you? Me. It already did. He walked on. His cologne lingered for a second. Then it was gone. That night, Aubrey texted. Unknown number. I need to talk. I didn't respond immediately. I let the silence sit. Then I agreed to meet her at a small cafe near the courthouse downtown. Neutral ground. Public. Recorded by cameras. Safe. The cafe smelled like burnt espresso and lemon cleaner, and hard wooden chairs, tiny metal tables. Aubrey looked smaller there. No blazer, no lodge lighting, just her, in a plain sweater. She didn't order anything. Her hands were wrapped around an empty paper cup. Aubrey. He told me the board approved everything. Me. Did you see documentation? She hesitated. Aubrey. He showed me something notarized. I almost laughed. Me. Notarized doesn't mean authorized. She looked down. Aubrey. He said you were emotional, that you couldn't handle pressure. I leaned back. Me. And you believed him. She swallowed. Aubrey. He said if I didn't move quickly, the opportunity would disappear. Opportunity. That word again. She looked up, eyes glassy. Aubrey. He promised position security, salary, stability. Security. The same bait he dangled in front of me. Different woman. Same hook. For the first time, I saw it clearly. She hadn't won. She'd been recruited. Aubrey. I thought you were just bitter. Me. I thought you just needed space. We sat in that honesty. No music playing, just the hiss of the espresso machine behind the counter. Aubrey reached into her bag. She pulled out a folded document. Independent Contractor Agreement. Signed. Dated 3 weeks before our breakup. My chest tightened. Me. So it started before you left. She nodded once. Aubrey. He said it would be temporary. Temporary. Like I had been. Aubrey's voice cracked for real this time. Aubrey. I didn't know about the complaints or the investigation. I believed her. Not because I wanted to, because her shock didn't look rehearsed. When someone manipulates you, they don't need you to be cruel. They just need you to be convenient. I slid the document back toward her. Me. You should speak to legal. She stared at me. Aubrey. Why are you helping me? I considered the question carefully. Me. Because this wasn't about us. It never was. She exhaled, long and shaky. Aubrey. He told me you were unstable. Me. He told me you were replaceable. That landed between us like a mirror. Outside, courthouse steps filled with people heading home. Case numbers get called every day. Stories get filed. Truth becomes paperwork. Aubrey wiped her eyes quickly. Aubrey, what are you going to do now? I thought about the folder with my name, the transcript, the frozen org chart. Me. Wait, she blinked. Me. And let the system finish what it started. She nodded slowly. For the first time, we weren't rivals. We were footnotes in the same investigation. And investigations have endings. And investigations have endings. 3 weeks later, I was standing in the same conference room where Graham had once rearranged my future. This time, the lights were bright. No projector glow hiding shadows, no background music smoothing edges, just clean white light and a printed agenda with my name on it. Interim Director, Product Operations. Interim, temporary, but real. Lana stood at the head of the table, calm and steady. Daniel from legal joined via speakerphone. The call tone echoed once before his voice came through. Daniel, the board has concluded its review. My hands rested flat on the table. No shaking, no dryness in my throat. Daniel, Graham Whitaker's employment has been terminated for policy violations, a failure to disclose conflicts of interest and misconduct. The words were clinical, precise, heavy. Lana didn't smile. She simply nodded once. Daniel continued. Severance has been voided. Further legal action remains under consideration. Case numbers, transcripts, official stamps. The things that once felt intimidating now felt clarifying. Daniel. Harper, thank you for your cooperation. Me. I documented what happened. Because that's what it was. Documentation, not revenge. After the call ended, Lana remained seated. She folded her hands, studying me. Lana. You understand this wasn't easy. Me. It wasn't supposed to be. She allowed herself a small exhale. Lana. The board would like you to lead the department while we stabilize. Led. The word settled differently than promotion. It didn't feel like a trophy. It felt like responsibility. Lana slid a formal letter across the table. Offer details, salary adjustment, title change, pending review cycle. The paper was smooth under my fingertips. Real ink, real signature. I thought about the county clerk's office line months ago, the buzzing fluorescent lights, the stamped case number 2024-17823. Back then, I had fought for $300 and a clean lease record. Today, I had fought for something harder to measure. Integrity. 2 weeks later, Graham's LinkedIn showed a former executive. No farewell post, no comments, just silence. The company issued a neutral statement about leadership transition. Professional, polished, final. Aubrey met with legal voluntarily. She provided her contract, her emails, her timeline. She wasn't charged with anything. Her contract was voided. She lost the director title she never officially started. One afternoon, she stopped by my office. No blazer, no performance. Just her, Aubrey. I'm leaving the state. Me. For work? She gave a small, humorless smile. Aubrey. For distance. Distance. The word felt different this time. She looked around my office. It was still half unpacked. A framed certificate leaned against the wall. A Starbucks cup sat on my desk, my name spelled correctly. Aubrey. You deserve this. I didn't answer immediately, because deserving is complicated. Me. We both deserved honesty. She nodded. No tears this time. No anger, just understanding that some relationships aren't rivals. They're collateral. She paused at the door. Aubrey. He said you'd never risk your stability. I leaned back in my chair. At me. He thought stability was silence. She left without another word. That night, I stayed late. The office lights reflected in the dark windows. My reflection stared back at me, tired, steady, older. I poured sparkling water into a glass from the office kitchenette. The fizz rose gently. For a second, I was back at the lodge. Champagne trembling in my hand, the word fiancé echoing in a room that felt like it was swallowing me whole. I lifted the glass now. No tremor, no burn in my throat, just carbonation and quiet. I learned something that weekend. Power doesn't always shout. Sometimes it listens. Sometimes it records. Sometimes it waits until the structure cracks under its own weight. And sometimes, the woman you thought you were losing to was standing on the same fault line. I set the glass down gently, and the surface didn't shake. The room didn't spin. My name was still on the door, and this time it wasn't written in pencil. If this story struck a chord, hit like, subscribe, and tell me what you think in the comments.